Hi guys, welcome back. It's Nick. I'm here talking again more JavaScript in Minecraft coding for you. This is the third lesson, or the second activity that we do in terms of our digital technologies course, mostly targeted year 7 and 8 kids. Okay, this is where we're learning a bit more on the Australian Curriculum Point 29, where we're dealing with errors and error handling. Okay, but most importantly right now, this is error detection. Okay, so when you guys have code that you're struggling with or it's not working, okay, what is it that we do about that? So you'll see on my screen right now, I've got some sequences of code. Basically, I want my agent to teleport to myself, I want to move forward, and then I want to destroy all the obstacles in front of me. Okay, but right now, these red lines indicate that there's a problem with my code. Okay, and if I try to click play, it's going to give me an error at the bottom that says, oops, we cannot run this project. Okay, so when you see that, how do you go about fixing these problems? Now, as your skills develop in coding, you're going to be able to identify these things a lot faster. But the great thing about this program is that it tries to help you to solve these problems. So if I try to deal with the first problem right now, what you can see on line 2, as I hover over it, it gives me this new support menu, or this help tooltip that says expected 0 arguments but got 1. Okay, now if you don't know what an argument is, I'm not surprised. Okay, in JavaScript coding, in this particular case of instance of Minecraft, an argument is what occurs between the brackets. Okay, so right now it's saying that it expected to have no arguments or 0 arguments, but it found 1. Okay, so if you look between those brackets, I've got the phrase or the variable my location. Okay, so that's actually telling me that I shouldn't have anything in between those brackets. So if I highlight that variable now and remove it, hopefully what will happen is my error is going to disappear. Okay, and that is what happened. You can see that red underline disappeared. Okay, now the next thing that's happening is that it's got a similar error for my next line function. It says on line 3, agent move forward. It says I'm expecting 2 arguments, but I've only got 1. Okay, now if you think about the concept of what that line of code is doing, it says agent move forward. Okay, but the computer's asking for a bit more information, and what it's asking for is how many blocks to move forward. Okay, so it says I know I have to move forward, but how far do you want me to go? Okay, now when you have a second argument, we separate arguments simply with a comma, and then we put in a new variable to indicate how many blocks that we want that agent to move. So if I wanted it to move 5 blocks forward, okay, then I'd just simply type in a 5. Now it's important here to notice the 2 differences in the way I've written these. You can see the word forward and the number 5. So if I wrote the word 5, okay, the program's going to give me a different error. Okay, it doesn't actually know that the word 5 is actually referring to the number 5. It needs to know that we're going to use what's called an integer. Okay, and it's expecting that the second argument is a number only. So if I tried to type in a word, it's going to give me an error and say that doesn't make sense. The first word or the first variable can be a word, but the second variable, that needs to be a number. I can't move forward hello spaces, okay, but I can move forward 5 spaces. Okay, now I'm going to bring in a new concept now. You've been able to see that there's been lots of red underlines coming through. Okay, now that means that we've got an error. Okay, but what it's actually saying is there's a problem with the code itself. Okay, which means it doesn't recognize the way you've written it. And when code doesn't recognize the way it was written, and this is the case for all 3 of them, what that's saying is you've got it's called a syntax error. Okay, so I'll just type that word out so you know how to spell it. Syntax error means it's not following the rules of the language. Okay, the rules of the language. If I said, hello, how are you? I've followed the rules of that language. However, if I said, hello, hello, well, you, that phrase no longer makes sense. Even though I used the right words, if they were in the wrong order, it didn't make sense to you. Okay, so with a syntax error, it means you're not following the way the code is supposed to be written. Okay, so our final issue is that it says expected 1 argument but got 0. Okay, so this time it says agent.destroy, and then there's nothing listed in these brackets. Okay, in my brackets here, I'm supposed to have something that for the agent to destroy. In this case, it's saying, which way do you want me to destroy it? Do you want me to destroy it in front of me, behind me, above me, below me? Which way do you want to destroy the block ahead of us? Okay, so I mean, I could type in back and the, whoops, needs to be in capitals, my mistake. Okay, it should be working fine. If I typed in forward, okay, then that's fine too. If I wanted the word above me, okay, above's not a recognized keyword, okay? So you can't just use in front of me, or you can't just use above me. You've got to use the 6 words that they give you. And in the case of the Minecraft JavaScript, it's forward, back, left, right, up, down. Okay, there's no other ways to destroy a block in any direction. Okay, so in that situation now, you can see all of my code is fresh. Okay, those red underlines have all disappeared, so the errors are all gone. If I was to click play, that error has now disappeared. Okay, and it's going to allow me to work that function. Okay, I'm just going to stop that for now. All right, I'm going to move on now and just show you the next block of code. So if I just remove that, I've actually got another whole block of code underneath the first one that you just saw. And what I did before was I commented it out so that it wasn't being read. Okay, so this next piece of code is not going to give me a syntax error the same way that you saw the previous ones. Okay, with a syntax error, it can be lots of different things. It doesn't just have to be you use the wrong words. In this situation, what we've got is we're going to see a problem with our brackets. So this is a problem that comes up with a lot of students. Lots of different people often have trouble figuring out what the brackets are supposed to look like, how they're going to be finished off correctly and in the right sequence. Okay, but I can tell from looking at the code straight away, you should be able to see that that bracket there and that bracket there has that red underline. So again, the computer has been able to figure out that it knows there's a problem with the syntax of the code, okay, and it's trying to point you in the right direction. Okay, so it knows it's a bracket problem. Unfortunately though, it's pointing to the wrong bracket in this case. Okay, so if you remember back from the previous videos, the way I wrote function up the top actually follows it with an open close bracket that looks like this one. Okay, and that, whoops, I beg your pardon, that's actually deleted the word. It's actually got an open close bracket that looks like this one now. Okay, and that's actually fixed one of the problems. Okay, you can see that this bracket now is actually no longer underlined. Okay, but this one down here still is. Okay, so we've still got a problem that we can't quite figure out at this point. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to try and click on these brackets and try to figure out where that next error is, because it is difficult to find the errors sometimes, especially when it has to do with a bracket problem. So you've got to remember that if you open a bracket, then you've got to shut it. If you open a bracket, then you've got to shut it. But if you open brackets inside other brackets, you've got to close the inside one before you can close the outside one. Okay, so this one here is actually closed all the way down here at the bottom. Okay, and I'm just going to add in a carriage return so you can see just how much extra content. So all of this content here is actually appearing inside this bracket and this bracket. Now when I click on it, you can probably see that it's got that little square that's indicating that it's matched up to that bracket. Well, that's correct. Okay, so that one's fine. Let's move on. This one, when I click on, it's matching up to the next bracket. That's fine too. This one here, well, we've got a problem now because that one thinks it's supposed to match up to this bracket. Okay, now this is actually the bracket that's the end of the for loop. Okay, and what it's saying is I don't know what this bracket is for right now. Okay, so what we've got a discrepancy. Either this bracket's wrong or this bracket's wrong. Now maybe you can already tell that this bracket should be matching up to this one over here, and therefore this one is missing something. Okay, if you remember from our previous work exercise when you did the for loop, after we do the conditional statement for the actual loop, we have to open up another parentheses bracket. Okay, I beg your pardon, another braces bracket. Okay, so that what goes in our for loop, okay, is actually in the braces brackets. Okay, these ones here are called parentheses, by the way, and in some other later lessons you might see these ones too. They're also called square or box brackets. Okay, so right now you're going to most of the time just be using these parentheses and these braces, but you can see right now, when I click on this one, this brace has now matched up to that one, and this brace has now matched up to that one. Okay, hopefully now what's going to happen is if I was to execute that code, it won't give me the error anymore, and it's simply going to be a code that when I type in run, it's going to move forward one block, but it's going to repeat that block move 5 times. I might just extend that to 50 just so it's a little easier to see what's going on first. Okay, before I test it, I just want to do one extra thing. Okay, we'll notice that we've got our agent moving forward, but the problem is I don't actually know where my agent in the game is right now. Okay, he could be really close to me, but he might probably be really far away right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell the agent to come to me first. Okay, that way I can just be able to see straight away that that code is going to work. Okay, so I've just added a little extra disclaimer at the beginning before this loop happens to tell the agent to teleport to me first. So if I click on play and then look ahead, if I open up my code now and I type run back into the chat window, okay, you'll see that my agent has appeared there. Okay, I can do that again, just type run one more time, okay, and that code will execute. Okay, so very simple code there. I've corrected all of my codes, I've corrected all of my brackets, I've ensured the syntax was correct. When I click play, I don't get that error message anymore, and I'm able to operate effectively. Okay guys, so thanks again for today. Hope you're having a good time with these lessons.